Kunjavihari Pijanavalava Girivardhari Gopijanavalava Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Gopijanavalabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjavihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bum bum, bum bum, bum bum. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktivedanta. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So we're reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is Madhya Lila, chapter 13. Text number 142. Deha smriti nahiyara samsara kupahantara samsara kupakahantara Deha smriti nahiyara samsara kupakahantara Taha haiti na chahe udara Taha haiti na chahe udara Viraha samudra jale kama timingila gile Viraha samudra jale kama timingila gile Gopi gana nahe tarapara Gopi gane nahe Neha tarapara Deha smriti nahiyara samsara kupakahantara Taha haiti nakahe udara Viraha samudra jale kama timingile gile Gopi gani neha tarapara Deha smriti nahiyara samsara kupakahankara Taha haiti nakahe udara Viraha samudra jale kama timingili gele Gopi gana neha tarapara Deha smriti nahiyara samsara kupakahantara Taha haiti nakahe udara Viraha samudra jale kama timingile gile Gopi gana nahe tarapana Deha smriti nahiyara samsara kupakahantara Taha haiti nakahe udara Viraha samudra jale kama timingile gile Gopi gana nahi tarapara Messages? Yeah. Samudra jale kamati gile gile. Deha smriti, bodily concept of life. Nahi, not. Yara, one whose. Samsara, kupa, blind well of material life. Kahan, where is. Tara, his. Taha aite, from that. Na, does not. Kahe, want. Udara, liberation. Vira samudra jale, in the water of the ocean of separation. Kama timingile, the transcendental Cupid in the form of a timingila fish. Gile, swallow. Gopigane, the gopis. Neha, please take out. Tara para, beyond that. Translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, the gopis have fallen into the ocean of separation and are being devoured by the timingila fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these timingila fish, for they are pure devotees. Since they have no material conception of life, why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want that liberation desired by yogis and jnanis, for they are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. In response, please. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, the gopis have fallen into the great ocean of separation and are being devoured by the timingila fish of their ambition to serve you. The gopis are to be delivered from the mouths of these timingila fish, for they are pure devotees. Since they have no material conception of life, why should they aspire for liberation? The gopis do not want that liberation desired by the yogis and jnanis. for they are already liberated from the ocean of material existence. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The bodily conception is created by the desire for material enjoyment. This is called Vipada Smriti, which is the opposite of real life. The living entity is eternally the servant of Krishna, but when he desires to enjoy the material world, he cannot progress in spiritual life. One can never be happy by advancing materially. This is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 7.5.30. Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram Punash Charvita Charvananam. Through the uncontrolled senses, one may advance one's hellish condition. He may continue to chew the chewed, that is repeatedly accept birth and death. The conditioned souls use the duration of life between birth and death only to engage in the same hackneyed activities: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. In the lower animal species, we find the same activities. Since these activities are repeated, engaging in them is like chewing that which has already been chewed. If one can give up this ambition to engage in hackneyed material life and take to Krishna consciousness instead, he will be liberated from the stringent laws of material nature. One does not need to make a separate attempt to become liberated. If one simply engages in the service of the Lord, he will be liberated automatically. As Bilvamangala Thakur therefore says, Mukti Swayam Muktiling Jali Sevate Asman. Liberation stands before me with folded hands begging to serve me. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastatya Deshatarine. So this chapter 13 is the the pastimes of the Lord at Rath Yatra, and it explains all about the deities being brought out, put onto the cart, and Maharaj Pratiparudra sweeping before the cart, getting Lord Krishna's Lord Chaitanya's blessings as a result, and eventually it explains about the actual system of kirtan, 14 madangas. Everything was very explicit. And then once the kirtan started, once the Rath Yatra started, Lord Chaitanya became more and more absorbed in, the mood of a devotee towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Jagannath. And he became so much absorbed that he started to, remember the mood of the gopis. And he started to pray like that. And he prays that I'm burning in the fire of separation. Now I've got your association. This fire is being extinguished. And then he started to remember the pastimes in the spiritual world. And nobody could understand. He was speaking in the mood that he was actually presenting these prayers in the mood of the gopis, and everybody except Swarup Damodar couldn't understand what he was actually speaking about. Later, of course, Rupa Goswami actually revealed, that's another story, but that he could understand. And he could understand why, because he got the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. He pleased Lord Chaitanya so much that he blessed him to understand the the mood in which he was dancing at Rath Yatra. So therefore, Rupa Goswami is called Rasaraj. You know, Sanatana Goswami is the older brother, and he always pays respects to the older brother. And so this is Vaishnava etiquette. Whatever our position, we always pay respects to the senior. But actually, we're actually Rupa Nugas because Lord Chaitanya blessed Rupa Goswami that he could understand his inner feelings of a devotee, the most intimate connection of a devotee to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore he's prominent in our Sampradaya. And, you know, Lord Chaitanya's he's actually acting as a devotee, praying, and then he starts to pray in the mood of Srimati Radharani, the chief gopi. And, you know, he's saying that, you know, why do you want me to actually go through all this? Because at the beginning of the Ras dance, when the gopis came to see Lord Chaitanya, or see Lord Krishna, he started playing his flute, and they left everything. And, you know, when they came to see him, you know, he played as if he didn't know why they'd come. What are you doing here in the middle of the night, you know? You're actually married women. You shouldn't be out at this time in the forest where there's dangerous animals. And so he told them, you know, best, you know, service in separation, right? What's wrong with that? Service in separation is where you know, meditate on me, you know, worship the deity, chant my holy name, and then gradually you'll develop a desire to. And but the gopis actually are beyond that, and they answered, you know, what's the point? We've already achieved the goal. Haradito yadi hari tapasya tatakim, naradito yadi hari tapasya tatakim. What's the point of austerities and meditation if we have developed, you know, attachment to devotional service to your lotus feet? And this is what they are. And alternatively, what's the point of, you know, meditation and jnana and developing knowledge, yoga, if it doesn't bring us to the lotus feet of the Lord? They're useless activities. So there's one nice verse in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nehayat karma dharmaya na vairagya kalpate na tirtha padasevaya jivan apimrito hisa. It says if one's work doesn't bring one to the point of dharma, being religious, and if one's religious practice doesn't bring one to the point of being detached from this world, and if detachment from this world doesn't actually culminate in devotional service to the Lord, one's considered dead while breathing. That's quite a statement, yeah. And that's a fact. You know, he's talking about this material world. It's actually dead. There's nothing. The only living entity in this material body is making everything work. What's that verse in Bhagavad Gita? What? I can't read. I'm going deaf. It's in the 7th chapter. I think it's verse 5. It talks about, you know, the living entity. That you know, there's eight elements making this world up. It's talking about the construction of the universe, and it says it's the living entity is actually the thing that's making everything work. Just like this whole universe is working because of Garbhodakashaya Vishnu, the whole creation is working because of Karanadakashayi Vishnu, and each individual is functioning by the grace of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. So there's nothing actually works without the living entity. But coming back to the point, is that the point is that this verse is talking about material enjoyment, and the more we practice devotional service, the more we actually feel really estranged at trying to actually function in this world. It becomes very distasteful. I remember when I first joined the movement, actually, it was I first joined a temple in 1984, and I was on Sankirtan in Liverpool, and I just got this realisation that everything, the whole city is dead. I can't explain it more than that. And there's these living entities just fiddling about in this world, and they're not getting anywhere. They're just working in a dead situation. And so this is actually a fact. And man and woman come together. It's just two mannequins. That's all. If we get that realization that's we're actually trying to reciprocate with an eternal servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knocks all the wind out of your sails, You don't feel like enjoying that situation anymore. So this is Krishna's mercy. And I just thought devotional service is not an easy thing. Lord Chaitanya here is exhibiting, the highest form of devotional service. And, in the mood of the gopis. So, but, it takes time. And this is why, the Supreme Lord was preaching to the gopis. He was just testing them, actually. But, we can't come to the stage of pure devotional service just like that. Prabhupada told us that we have to be patient. But we have to actually appreciate that we've got the most expedient process. Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, it wraps up all the conclusion of Bhagavad Gita. And it talks about, renunciation. And renunciation in the mode of goodness. It explains the different, pitfalls of renunciation and knowledge and work in these other modes, the lower modes, and tells us to work in the mode of goodness. So this is the first step in God realization. Yeah? All religions tell us to be moral, is that right? At least, be moral, then we can actually advance from that particular point. And then the next stage is that you say, okay, mode of goodness, and that the three modes of nature are actually controlling everything. So work in a system by which you can work according to your modes. This is Varnashram. It mentions the different Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. And then it says if one works in that way, according to one's nature, one can actually advance and one can achieve the pure devotional service eventually. Yeah? And then it starts talking about Gyan. It jumps onto Gyan. And it tells us how to become mentally detached from everything. And then we can reach what stage is it? The Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nasochiti Nakankshit. Samak Sarvishu Bhutashu. Yeah, so but then then the real thing starts is that Bhaktimam Abhigyanati, we engage in devotional service. We come to the point where we're completely purified, we can engage in devotional service. And Srila Prabhupada is giving us that straight away. If we engage in following Prabhupada's instructions, he says we're actually considered liberated. And this is what this verse is talking about, liberation. And from that liberated platform, we can actually, at least externally, practice devotional service. And then the internal purification comes, and we eventually internally practice devotional service. And that service becomes then natural, spontaneous. And then the 18th chapter starts speaking about, super soul realization. In all activities, just depend upon me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. And so, and then eventually, Lord Krishna sees Arjuna, he's not completely bewildered, but he's really thoughtful, trying to see the essence of Lord Krishna's instructions. And then Lord Krishna, seeing him in that difficult situation, he quotes the verse, Man mana bhava mad bhakto, man yajri mam namaskaru, mame vaishyati satyam te, pratijane priyosi me. In other words, just do everything in devotional service and always think of me. Become my devotee, worship me, offer your homage to me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely you will come to me. Voila, that's it. So that's a long way, yeah? But we, it's the same with yoga. Yoga, you have to yama niyama, you have to know what to do, what not to do. Then you have to learn how to actually, sit. You have to learn how to control the breathing. It takes a long time. This is called, what they call it, yoga rurukshu. Spend a little bit of time meditating, then do some, selfless service in society. Spend a bit more time meditating, and then build up until you can meditate for a long time. Then when the breathing's going, then the mind becomes controlled. And then we can focus. What do we focus on? The yogi doesn't necessarily know. So this is when he meets a devotee, and he learns how to focus on the super soul at least. So Prabhupada, and all these things are bringing us through to the point of jhana. In 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita it says, jhana yoga, meditation. So, Prabhupada has given us that platform straight away, meditation, just by this Hare Krishna Maha mantra and his blessings. And now we're just, we're able to actually hear about Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. There's no actually higher pastimes in creation. And we're able to understand them by the Lord's mercy to some degree. So I just had a recap on, it's talking about liberation. What is liberation? What is liberation? Liberation, for a jnani is, getting rid of all the material suffering, right? He just realizes he's in a suffering condition, and so therefore he wants to be relieved from that. But he wants to be relieved from it. So is it really liberation? There's some personal desire there. And in devotional service, in the beginning at least, there's that desire for relief. We come to devotional service and there's a big relief. And, we tend to meditate, I do anyway, we tend to meditate on, at some point, we get the full blessings and we've made it. But this is a misunderstanding also. Iha yasya harer dasya kamana manasagira. Nikalashpa basta su jivan mukta uchite. He says, when we perform devotional service with body, mind and words, when we're fully absorbed, we're actually liberated. This is liberation. And so a devotee in the temple, if he's fully absorbed in his, is liberated. And so liberation is not freedom from suffering. There's material suffering, right? Material suffering means that, it's endless. And everything we try to do, it ends in disaster. And we become more and more anxious, more and more fearful, and we become more and more degraded. But spiritual apparent suffering, I should say. It's not suffering, actually. Apparent suffering means there's variety. Lord Chaitanya is showing that there's variety. We're all individuals, and what we're going to do if we all become liberated and there's no more suffering. So in the spiritual world, it's this, it's varieties of varieties. And so Krishna's always creating this situation. In the material world, they call it, Mahamaya. Everybody's completely in ignorance, and therefore they just try to enjoy the senses and exploit one another to the max. But in the spiritual world, we're covered by the same energy in the form of Yogamaya, and that energy is actually covering also Krishna at some point. By Krishna's will, Purnamasi Yogamaya is actually making arrangements for these pastimes. And there's some anxiety and some fear, and all these sentiments are there in the spiritual world. But it's of a different nature, that's all. Just like devotional service, when we extend ourselves to do some service. And in the beginning, it may be a little bit of an effort. We have to overcome our inhibitions to do that. But Sankirtan, for instance. But as we actually become more absorbed in the activity, it's actually difficult, but it's not difficult. You understand? It may be some physical difficulty. The mind sometimes plays up. But if we're actually absorbed in the activity, we actually get joy from it. So this is what we're actually working for, not giving up activity, but becoming more absorbed in devotional service, the way Lord Chaitanya was at Rath Yatra. He was so absorbed that he was actually in the spiritual world. And so therefore he was reciting these prayers. And so in the form of Srimati Radharani, he's rebuking Lord Jagannath. Why are you asking me to actually perform these lower activities? So we should actually take lesson from that. Why should we actually go for the lower activity of just trying to satisfy ourselves in devotional service? That's actually, it's good if we want to do that. It's a goal to aim for, but it's not the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to actually learn how to associate in the association of devotees and render selfless service to the Supreme Lord. And that's the difficulty. We're so absorbed in trying to enjoy this body and enjoy this mind and enjoy the intellect that it's painful. We can't understand how by doing the reverse, by not trying to enjoy it, we'll find more happiness. So devotional service has to be experienced. It's not something that we can just book read and, apply and, we get the result. We have to actually practically apply it. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says that it's not we may understand it's a realized soul who actually experiences pleasure or actually freed from this material world. So, for higher taste, what's that verse? Vishaya vinivartante niharasyadenam raso varjam rasopyasya param drishva nivartate. We've got to actually get the higher taste. And that's our real work. Because when we get the higher taste, we're not going to be actually satisfied until we're always experiencing that. The lower taste will gradually disappear into the distance. And we'll be actually fixed in devotional service. In the beginning, the senses are still attracted. So this is our tapasya. This is the four regulative principles. chanting of a Hare Krishna mantra. But that tapasya won't last. It seems like it'll last forever. You know? When, oh when, Bhaktivedanta Thakur prays, what does he pray? When, oh when will that day be mine? And he prays that, he's happy when other people are unhappy, and he's unhappy when other people are happy. This is material conception. And so he's actually mimicking a conditioned soul. But that day is not far away, actually. We're on the brink of eternity. And everything is actually in place. We just have to learn to see it like that. And devotional service means that. It means coming to the point of actually understanding that Krishna is a well-wishing friend in everybody's heart. He's only desiring our best. And no matter what happens, it's for the best. Whatever situation we're in now, it's perfect. Does everybody agree? Yeah. If we're in a difficult situation, if we're actually thoughtful about it, think, what do I have to learn here? And that's the hard part, isn't it? So bitter sometimes. But if we're prepared to do that, then we actually we can appreciate Krishna's presence, we can appreciate Krishna's mercy. And this is the process of devotional service. It's actually an enthusing process because it's dynamic. And when a devotee starts to think like that, he sees Krishna everywhere. We may not see Krishna directly, but we see Krishna in every situation. And then, we always, just like Queen Kunti, she's praying for that. She's praying for difficulties so that she'll always see Krishna in every situation. And then she'll no longer see, rebirth in this material world. I'll move on a little bit. It's like, we're talking about material enjoyment in this particular... What time do we finish, by the way? 9 o'clock? Oh, Hare Krishna. So Devahuti, she was the wife of Kardama Muni. Kardama Muni is a pure devotee. But this is all part of the same pastime. Suddenly he got a desire to get married. I mean, he was a lifelong brahmachari. He was completely absorbed in his service. And why would actually a desire to get married actually spring up in his heart? And at the same time, Swayambhuva Manu, the lawmaker for mankind, the king of the universe in one respect, he actually saw that his daughter came of age and he was looking for a husband. And so, being a devotee, he understood that it doesn't matter the externals. So even though she was a princess, he wanted to marry her to Kardama Muni. And so Krishna is actually in the heart, is creating all situations, in the spiritual world, in the material world. And this means Krishna consciousness, seeing Krishna in every situation. And so Devahuti, Kardama Muni agreed to Devahuti's proposal, or Swayambhuva Manu's proposal, on behalf of Devahuti. And they were married. And then they went on honeymoon. They went, they created an aerial mansion. And so they went on this aerial mansion to all the best spots in the universe, Mount Kailash, any others? Over the Milky Way. And for 100 celestial years, was it? Anyway, for 100 years, it's still a long time. They enjoyed. And then eventually, she had 8 daughters, I think it was. And then she had one son, that was Kapila Muni. And he was a Shakti-Avesh avatar. And so then Kada Muni says, well, I promise that when you give birth to a child, to a male child, then I can leave and take sannyas. And at that point, Devahuti understood, I've been wasting my time. And she started to, scratch the earth with her big toe. And, she was looking down, she was repentant. He says, I've had, and this is where this prayer comes in, Nehayat Karma Dharmaya. All my activities have actually finished up in zero. I tried to enjoy the situation, and now, I'm actually losing the very source of my liberation. So she said, please, arrange for that I won't stay in this material world. And so again, by Krishna's arrangement, the son was actually the Supreme Lord. And so later Kapila Muni preached to Devahuti, and she became completely liberated. So, we have to see like that. We have to see that the material energy is, it's creating a cloud over the individual. Prabhupada describes that, the clouds, they are covering the sun. But the sun's still there, Krishna's still there. The clouds are covering us. It's not that, Krishna's covered. And so our whole process is to gradually uncover that Krishna consciousness within the heart. What's that verse? Nityasiddha Krishna Prema, Sajjakabanai, Sarvanadi Surichata Karya Udai. Pure love is already there, it's just a cleaning process. And where does this cleaning process start? What starts this cleaning process? In Bhagavatam it explains this. Sushrusha Shradhadanasya Vasudeva Katarushi Syanmahat Sevayabhipra Punyatirtha Nishevanat. It says, by serving the Mahat, the great souls. This is also mentioned in, I think it's the 5th canto, whether we serve a impersonalist who's liberated, impersonal liberation, or a personalist, it's still taking us the right way. So we have to serve somebody who's actually liberated, or is further along the path of liberation than we are. By serving that person, then we get the blessings. And those blessings culminate in an attraction for devotional service, an attraction for hearing actually. Because every other, hearing is the most powerful process. And in the next verse it says, Srimvatam Svakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridyantaksto Hivat Badrani Buddhanoti Saritsatam. That, if we're hearing seriously, then Krishna will cleanse the heart. And the biggest attraction in this world is the attraction between male and female. That's the biggest obstacle to every devotee. And it says if we hear with attention, he says eventually that attraction will be actually overcome just by that process. So who will not hear? Who will not hear? A butcher, or one who is killing the self, it says, doesn't it? So by hearing, the desire, it may not be there. And when the desire is not there, it's difficult to know how we can progress in devotional service. But if the desire to hear is actually manifested, then eventually that hearing process, the desire to actually understand Krishna, the desire to render service to Krishna, the desire to become absorbed in Krishna consciousness, And then a loving devotional relationship will develop. So everything is dependent on our desire. Our desire was to come to the material world. Lord Arjuna asks, Ato kena prayuktayam papam charity purushaha anichtam apivarshneya baladiva nayojitaha. Arjuna asks, why did we come here in the first place? And Krishna says, it's lust, Arjuna. Every living entity has desire. And when that desire is misplaced, when it's placed around the self, trying to enjoy separately, then that desire brings us to the material world. The desire to enjoy is a mode of passion. And from the mode of passion, it degrades into mode of ignorance. He says, so when that passionate mode can be purified by this hearing process, and then the lust in the heart is removed. And then these lower modes, by regular hearing, nasta priyeshu bhadreshu, nityam bhagavata sevaya, bhagavati uttama shloka, bhaktir bhavati naisaki. One becomes fixed in devotional service. There's still some attachment. Because we're in the material world, it will be there to some degree. But these lower modes, tama, Raja tama bhavas, kama lobaryasyet, chete etirnavidim, stita sattve prasidati. Tamas and rajas. What's tamas and rajas? Lobha. Lobha's, greed. Greed to, for so many things, mode of ignorance. Lobha, what is it, lobha? Lobha is greed, right? What's the other one? Karma. Karma, this is passion. Passion to enjoy. These lower modes are actually the problem. Mode of goodness is a stepping stone. We actually perform mode of goodness activities in the temple. We rise early, mode of goodness. We chant mantras, mode of goodness. We chant the Maha mantra, pure, it might be in the mode of ignorance in the beginning, but it's actually raised to the mode of pure goodness. So from the mode of goodness we can make progress. And then we can come to evam prasanna manaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha. Bhagavat tattva vijnana mukta sangasya jayate. Evam prasanna means enlivenment. This is what we're looking for. Vishaya vinivartante, we're looking for that drishta, we're looking for that higher taste. So when we actually get a taste for performing devotional activities, this means we're starting to come on the safe side, this ruchi. And then that taste will take away the lower taste. This is our process. It's not one of negate. We can't negate anything. We ain't got the strength. That ability to actually negate is coming from Krishna. But it's coming because of attraction to Krishna, attraction to the process of devotional service. That's the beginning of a sakti. And then when that develops, it becomes attachment or attraction to Krishna. A taste for serving Krishna, a very deep taste. And then bhava, and eventually prema. And then that's just the beginning. You see, we're dipping our toe in the ocean of devotion. And this is what Lord Chaitanya is experiencing here. He's experiencing prema on different levels. What they call it, the highest prema? It's Mahabhava. And this is what Srimati Radharani experiences. And so, Lord Chaitanya, he didn't really, he asked Ramananda Roy to explain about devotional service and, relate to Shastra. And so Ramananda Roy reluctantly, he said, well, you are giving me the ability to understand, But anyway, as you've asked, he started to explain these things, and he went all through the things I've mentioned before until he came to this process of hearing. And all the way through, even though, the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita is abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender to me. So that seems to be conclusive. And Lord Chaitanya even rejected that. He says, you have to come to the spiritual platform. So he quoted Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. He said, and he rejected that. He said it may be that you're actually, you're developing your own knowledge. It's called speculative knowledge, but it's according to Shastra, so it's accepted. And then he quoted a verse from the Bhagavatam, Jnane priyasamudapashya namantyeva, jivanti sanmakaritam bharadiya varman, stane stitasya, srutigatim tanuvan manobhya, ye prayaso jita apitraistirokam. He said, don't change your situation. We keep hearing this in devotional service. And Prabhupada kept saying, don't try to learn something new. I mean, you can learn to play the madanga and the harmonium, and the cartels. I mean, that's all right. But, don't go out of your way to actually become something that you're not. Just accept your situation and render service from that situation by hearing. And then that service by hearing will become purified. And that's the perfection of our devotional service. So nobody's actually higher or lower in devotional service, although it apparently appears so. It's just that, we have different degrees of false ego. You know what I mean? It's not necessarily the leader that actually is most advanced. He might have the biggest false ego. You never know. He has to go through that and realise that he's not a leader at all. Anyway, we're carrying. And then, then he started talking about the different levels of devotional service, like Shantaras. That can also be impersonal. Just appreciate, like the Kumaras, they appreciated Lord Vishnu, but they thought, we're okay, we'll carry on with impersonal liberation. We're satisfied with that. But then when they went to see Lord Vishnu, and they got the aroma from the tulsi on his toe, it just completely changed their mind, and they became devotees. And then there's, Dasyaras, becoming a friend of a servant. Then Dasya, Sakya becoming friend, Vatsalya becoming a parent, and then Madhurya. And this is what actually Lord Chaitanya gave us. He gave us the Madhurya Ras. Other sampradayas don't have that. They're usually in Vatsalya is the highest. But he gave us the ability to actually completely surrender to Krishna. Now, it mentions that, complete surrender is any one of these rasas, but Prabhupada mentions that if on an analytical, from, what's the word he uses? Anyway, if we actually really go into it, that there actually is gradations, and although every particular rasa is perfect, because that's the mood of the living entity, the biggest surrender is the Madhurya Ras. Because it means that we just surrender everything. Lord Chaitanya says, what's the last verse of the Shikshastikam? Aslesha bharatam panashtumam arashamama hatam karotuva yatatata davidadatu lampato matprana natashtu sa eva napara. Even if you handle me roughly by your embrace, and it does sometimes, Krishna, to purify us, or not present before me, you'll still be my worshipful Lord unconditionally. Even if I have to go to hell, I won't give up the service of Lord Krishna. This is the mood. So it means we're completely off the bodily platform. And that's what this verse is speaking about. It mentions the bodily platform is the cause of all the problems. It's the cause of the mental problems, the intellectual problems, and the physical problems. And so this is the panacea. The thing that is difficult to do is the thing which will actually the best thing to do. Yeah. It's 1:15 now. So I'll stop there. Then there's some time for some questions or some comments. Yeah.
Okay, that was my question. Maharaj, you mentioned Kapila Deva Muni, Shakti Avesh Avatar. That means he's a jiva. So I'm just wondering. Once I was asked that I was. Once I was asked this question, I was kind of waffling my way out of it. How principle of Shakti Avesha is that means that this jiva, when the Lord decides to empower somebody in such a degree, that this individual jiva is kind of like a put aside, like a kind of dormant state where the Lord is acting through him, speaking through him, or is completely aware and he just within himself he cooperates with the Lord and then accepts empowerment. Just wondering how this principle of Shakti Avesha acts, because sometimes it's accepted that Lord Kapila is Supreme Personality of Godhead, but is Jiva, empowered. So how that principle actually works? Is he just used like possessed, or is I don't know, or is completely aware, conscious, but within he is cooperating and accepting and trying his best. How that works?
Well, everybody's empowered by Krishna ultimately. That's the reality. But Krishna's the Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchitananda Brigara Anadi Radhi Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam. He's Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the cause of all causes, and he's the empowerment of everybody else. So it's just different levels of empowerment. There's the Vishnu Shakti, or Vishnu Tattva, sorry. Then there's the Shakti Tattva, and then there's the Jiva Tattva. So they are categorized and they have a certain function. So, even we're empowered to actually perform devotional service and do what we do. We couldn't do it otherwise. When we chant, we're praying for empowerment and to do the service and be free from the effects of illusory energy. And so when somebody becomes so pure that they're not affected by, they become so absorbed in devotional service that they're not affected by the material energy, they can be empowered to become, to do very, very important service for the Lord. So they can become a Shakti Avesh avatar. Now what a Shakti Avesh avatar experiences, I don't know. But we can get some idea. I mean, Prabhupada was very empowered. Yeah. And, but he didn't feel like it. He felt that, well, he did feel, he thought, anything I'm doing is coming by the mercy of the Parampara through my spiritual master from Krishna. And so that's the mood of service. He was just actually understanding that this is not my ability, it's coming from Krishna. So let me not misuse it. Krishna's delegated and given his confidence to me to do it, so it's my responsibility to make sure I do it properly. So that's the mood.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the class. The point you mentioned about Mahaprabhu speaking with Ramanand Roy and giving us...
Slowly. slowly and clearly.
Sorry. The point you mentioned about Mahaprabhu having a conversation with Ramanand Rai, and the final point that he mentioned, that you should not change who you are, the verse that you quoted about from Srimad Bhagavatam. Would you be able to elaborate more on that and how we can implement that in terms of not wanting to change who we are, change our situation basically, but rather just progress? Like, what is the takeaway from that, Prabhuji?
Well, we have a particular nature, and maybe as a conditioned soul, we don't so easily admit it, because we've got a big false ego, Everybody wants to be, the man, or the lady, whatever, so that gets in the way. But if we're actually serious about devotional service, then after practicing it for some time, we can see that we're being motivated in a certain way to do certain things. It's our nature. And so therefore we have to learn to follow that nature by the guidance of our superiors who can see what our nature is as well. It's not that we may understand that immediately. We might have to understand it by the school of hard knocks. You know what I mean? Krishna's dealing with us in a certain way. What's that word when it's specific for somebody? Peculiar way, or not peculiar. Use it customed. In a customed way, You can see, it's not that it's like you can categorise. There's millions of different categories. As many modes of nature there are, 8,400,000 species, and it goes on. There's all these different... and Krishna's dealing exactly in the right way with us. So we can't specifically actually analyse somebody the way Krishna can. Neither can we analyse ourselves the way Krishna can. But as we practice devotional service, we keep hearing and we keep applying, and we're seeing what works, we start to see what our nature is and what needs to be done. And therefore these actual teachings become more meaningful to us. And we might be in a situation where we realise, I shouldn't be in this situation. But, the big false ego has put me in this situation, and so I need to work through it. Anyway, there's so many things that we can't really... We have to accept the situation we're in and the advice we're getting, and then work with that. You know what I mean?
Thank you, Maharaj. Just a quick follow-up. So if let's say I find myself in like a mode of ignorant situation wherein I feel that, I have always been sort of ignorant by nature, could it be so that is also like somewhat my spiritual nature as well? Like, are there spiritual modes of nature as well, and I should be what I am? I know I completely twisted what was said, but still just have this question.
No, the modes are not there in the spiritual world. There's no ignorance as we know it. Our ignorance is Mahamaya, that, we just actually don't know. We covered. In the spiritual world, as I was saying, they may be covered to act out a particular pastime with Krishna, Even when living entities come to this material, Nityasiddhas come to this world, they may be covered to perform a particular activity, like Arjuna. It's not just Arjuna that Krishna covers, so that he speaks Bhagavad Gita. It's devotees in general who come. Because if they're always remembering the absolute reality, they can't really get into the part, A good actor, he actually becomes that person. Yeah.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Real liberation, I'm referring to that actually, is to be in the association of devotees. That's real liberation. When you're in the kirtan, you experience the bliss that is there. It's with you anyway. if you can't see it, then the thing is, we can go. There's a saying: analysis, paralysis by analysis. You don't. Am I doing this? Should I be doing that? Oh dear. Should I be this rasa? Should I? No. Association of devotees is liberation. That's what we should be heading for. It's our comfort. It's our friend. Well, that's what I think. And your service is your friend. You know. Okay.
Yeah.
Maharaj, you said that sometimes we experience happiness during our spiritual life on kirtan and different times. How should we relate to that happiness? Should we flow with it, enjoy it, or we should be conscious of this is not our happiness?
I mean, if we're enjoying the kirtan in the association of devotees, then everything's okay, you know. Because actually, what happens if you become absorbed in the kirtan, you just lose your inhibitions, don't you, you know? The more you listen. And so we just actually absorb in the kirtan, and whatever we experience, you know, we experience. But just keep becoming absorbed in the kirtan. And that's the main thing. It's like, you know, there's karma. Karma comes in our life, even as a devotee to some degree, either by Krishna's, he may manipulate it and change it according to the requirements. But we're going to, you know, Prahlad Maharaj speaks to his school friends. I can't remember the Sanskrit now, but he says, you know, the happiness and distress we experience in this world, it'll come and go, and we get it automatically due to our past activities. Therefore, we shouldn't actually, you know, be too concerned with that. What we should be concerned with is actually, you know, going forward with our devotional service. So, in other words, whether we feel happy or we feel, it don't really matter. What should be analysing? Am I actually practicing devotional service? And the more we focus on that, the more actually we feel, you know, freed from these, you know, happiness and distress. The more we're actually more satisfied. I always take the example of Jayapataka Maharaj, you know. He shouldn't be in that body now, you know. You know, it's way past its sell-by date. But, you know, he's still there, and he's happily serving Krishna in that situation. I mean, I don't think I could do that. So he's actually absorbed in service, and he's thinking, I don't know what he's thinking actually, but, you know, he's just satisfied that he can actually sacrifice his life for Lord Krishna, for Lord Chaitanya. And that's love, you know. We're just prepared to sacrifice everything. And we can only do that, I'm getting off the point a little bit now, but we can only do that if we actually have, you know, a connection with Krishna, a tangible connection through our service. So it don't matter, you know, we're all coming from different backgrounds. And we all have different natures, and it's actually there, it's actually coming and going. And so we have to work with that. You know, let's be satisfied. This is my nature. Just enjoy the kirtan, whatever it may be. Some devotees, you know, they're actually really into the dancing. Some devotees are not so much into the dancing. But if we're hearing the kirtan and we're enjoying it, that's all that matters. I don't know whether that's answered your question or not.
It's more like asking that, is that a real happiness which we can own and we can, you know, relate to it in a way that this is right, that I'm enjoying it, or is it something we have to be conscious that that enjoyment is not important for us, we just have to focus on the Lord?
I used to think that when I first joined the movement. when I was in Kirtan, I was thinking, you know, did I experience this outside? Yeah, I felt like this sometimes when I was outside, you know. I felt happy. Is there any difference? And I couldn't tell the difference. But, you know, as time went on, I realised, I was in one Kirtan, and I hadn't joined the temple, but it was the first big festival. It was at Chaitanya College. And they had a Kirtan there, and all of a sudden I felt my feet lift off the floor. And I thought, that's not me. You know, I started dancing, and I realised that actually there's another energy there. So, you know, in devotional service, sometimes we get some happiness which just comes from nowhere, and we know it's not actually the usual happiness. I don't get it very often, but it's there, you know. Usually, you know, I think we have to... personally speaking, I'm satisfied to be contented in trying to do some service. That's where I'm at the moment. And as far as other things, I am not really so knowledgeable.
Okay, Maharaj, I think it's coming to that time now where we should be leaving. So, so Prabhu was talking about the real happiness from Kirtan, the dancing or expression. The real, is it real happiness? I must admit, from I can say this from my point of view, according to my experience, that it's even more than happiness for me, in the sense that even though I'm not purified at this stage, but when I'm engaged in Kirtan and I'm dancing, all the clouds of the heaviness or whatever it is hanging over me disappear more quickly than chanting itself. So it's a point of connection to the transcendence for some people. For some people, it's a real thing. It's not even happiness. It's more than that. It's something else, you know.
I remember there was one song many years ago in the, I think it was the 60s or 70s, I'm not mentioning it. He said, bright, bright, sunshining day. And it's talking about the clouds have cleared away, you know. So even the materialists actually, you know, when we feel happy, it's like there's no problems for some time. So that's the point I was making, is that sometimes it's difficult, you know, to understand. I mean, you may have more realization. Anyway, I understand your point that it feels more than the ordinary happiness, something beyond that. Okay, Kantaraj Srimad Sri Chaitanya Chaitamrita Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada.
Something is happening. Prashad is in the Haveli.
Hare Krishna Krishna Krishna. Krishna 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 Hare Hare Hare